And welcome here to Talk FCB, and welcome back here to the channel, guys. And it is the big countdown now to the big one. The World Cup starts in just a few days. On Thursday, we will have our first match kicking off. And in this video, we are going to be previewing 4 of those first 4 games. Russia against Saudi Arabia, followed up by Egypt against Uruguay, which will be on the Friday. Then we'll have Morocco against Iran, before finally the big one, a really big game, Portugal against Spain. All of those games we will be going over in some detail and predicting the outcome of all of them. The World Cup is just around the corner. Let's get hyped for it. So with that in mind, the first game that we are going to look at is the first game of the tournament, which will be Russia against Saudi Arabia in Group A. And that game will be kicking off on Thursday. And that game will be kicking off on Thursday at 4 o'clock Central European time. And that will be the massive opening game of this tournament, which we all hope will be a fantastic occasion. And I'm actually very intrigued by this game because I want to see what Russia bring to the table. Obviously, the only team in the World Cup that technically hasn't actually qualified to be in the tournament. Obviously, Russia being the host nation, they went straight into the tournament as it is, and Saudi Arabia coming through qualifying, and a fantastic achievement from them to even reach the World Cup. And clearly in this game, Russia go into it as the favourites, as the host nation. They will be going into this one expecting to win. They want to have a good start, and I'm interested to see how they handle the kind of pressure, because clearly everybody there inside the stadium, they'll want Russia to win. They'll want them to at least get out of their group in this tournament, and I'm interested to see how those Russian players handle the pressure, because when I watch Russia in a lot of major tournaments, they've often disappointed, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do in this kind of game against Saudi Arabia, who, like I say, will be underdogs, but at the same time, they'll be going out there with the attitude, they've got nothing to lose, they're going to give it everything they've got, and they will not be easy opponents in this game for Russia. They're going to fight, they're going to try and defend as well as they can, and certainly on the break and from set pieces and things like that, they're going to try and chip away and get a goal if they can. And what will be very interesting to see how the atmosphere would change should Russia go behind in this game. If Saudi Arabia can get themselves the first goal, that would be very intriguing to see how Russia can react to that and how the crowd inside the stadium would react as well. I am actually going to go in this one with a bit of a shock result. I'm going to go with Russia 1, Saudi Arabia 1. I think Russia are going to drop points in this opening game, and I think Saudi Arabia are going to pick up a well-deserved point and really leave the group in the balance. Up next, we have the other game in Group A, which will be between Egypt and Uruguay. Another very intriguing tie, and this one will be taking place at 1 o'clock Central European time, and this one will be on the Friday. So we got one game kicking off on the Thursday, and then 3 World Cup games on a feast, really, on that Friday. That'll be a day. Get yourself indoors, get yourself outside with a TV. You want to be in front of the screens watching these 3 games in the World Cup on Friday, and Egypt take on Uruguay in what should be a good game, because Egypt have got some very exciting players. Uruguay, I've spoken about them a lot in the build-up of this tournament. I rate them very highly as a team. They have got some match winners in their team, the likes of Luis Suarez, Edinson Cavani, Diego Godin. I really like Torreira as well in their midfield, and they've got a lot of experience in that team who should really get them through these games. Mohamed Salah for Egypt, of course, monumental in their qualification, monumental for Liverpool right throughout the season, suffered a heartbreaking injury in that Champions League final, courtesy, of course, of Sergio Ramos, and there's been a real war of words following that game as well. Salah says that he is going to be fit to start this game for Egypt against Uruguay, but the question is, how fit is he going to be? Originally, the injury looked very serious. We didn't even know if he would make this tournament, so he's done really well to get himself fit and in contention for this game. But like I say, I don't know whether he's going to be 100% fit, how he's going to be against Uruguay, but I would expect Uruguay to win this game. I think they've got more experience, they've got a good squad of players, they work very hard, they've got a lot of leaders in their team as well. They'll want to get off to a good start. They're massive favourites for me to win this group and get through the knockout rounds. I think Egypt have got a good chance as well of going through, and this game really won't decide that. Their games will be big against the likes of Russia and Saudi Arabia. If they lose to Uruguay, it's not going to be detrimental to their success in this World Cup, but I'm going to go with Uruguay 2, Egypt 0. Uruguay are going to come through this one in that big first game on the Friday. The second game on that Friday then will be between Morocco and Iran. That'll be the first game then in Group B, and that'll be kicking off at 4 o'clock Central European time, so after the Egypt versus Uruguay game. And this one again is very, very interesting. I actually looked into both of these teams. I did the World Cup guide for OneFootball, and I looked extensively into both Morocco and Iran. And I have to say, two nations who on the face of it, if you didn't know them, it doesn't look like that kind of a good a matchup. But if you've looked into them, if you've researched their teams, their nation, how exciting both of them are for this World Cup, this is going to be a very, very intriguing battle, simply because both teams do really, really well in the defensive side of their game. Very solid defensively. They're very, very good in terms of their positional play and how their managers want them to play. All the players take that on board, and it's going to be fascinating, really, to see how one can break down the other. And not only that, but I think both of these teams are capable of upsets in this group. I think both of them have a chance to take points off Portugal if it comes down to it, and it's going to be really interesting in this game which one comes out on top. One team in this one has to win if they're going to qualify from the group. I think a draw here would actually end the hopes of both teams. One team will need to come out on top. For that reason, I think it's going to be very nervy. It's going to be very much a lot of tension in this game. Neither team will want to lose this. They'll both be aware of that, and I think in the end it's going to come down to who can create the most chances, who can actually finish off those chances, because even though these teams defend very, very well indeed, both Morocco and Iran do sometimes struggle when they're going forward in terms of goals. And for that reason, I am actually going to say this could be the first 0-0 draw of the World Cup, and I'm going to go with Morocco 0, Iran 0. But very easily, this could be 1-0 either way. It's going to be a tight game, not much in it. I would not expect many goals, but if I had to pick one, I would say it would be a draw. And then finally, guys, we have the colossal clash on the Friday night, the third game of that Friday. After you've had your warm-up, Egypt against Uruguay, then Morocco against Iran, the main course of the day is going to be Portugal against Spain in what for me is a make or break match very, very early on in that Group B. A lot of people think this will obviously decide who finishes top of the group, but it also could do a lot more than that. I think very, very early on, your first game of the World Cup, you're settling in, but you always want to get off to a good start. You don't want to come into the World Cup and lose your first game. That's a really bad start. That damages your confidence. It leaves you playing catch up. It puts a lot of pressure on that team. And I actually think the loser of this game could have a lot of detrimental effects, maybe even might fail to qualify from this group. You look at Spain, for instance, in the last World Cup in 2014, they had a disastrous start, didn't they? They were humiliated by the Netherlands, a really bad defeat for them on that day, and they never recovered from that. Eliminated in the group stage, just one World Cup after they won it in 2010. So clearly, if you lose your first game, it can be a big, big problem, and I think in this one, Spain have got the huge advantage. I think as a team, they're much, much better this time around. They've got a new spirit, they've got a new desire, they've gone back to playing the way that made them so successful. They hunt the ball down, they put a lot of pressure on the ball, they're great in the final third, they create so many chances, and I just think looking at their squad, there's so many different options that Lopetegui can go with. He can go with forwards, he can go with Diego Costa, he can go with Aspas, Rodrigo, and if Spain are in the game and it's not quite working, they can change things around so easily, and they can bring in more solutions. If they're not creating enough chances, if they're not dominating in midfield, they can go with a false nine. They've got so many creative players in that midfield. David Silva, Andres Iniesta. They've got Busquets at the heart of things. Thiago in midfield. Koke, Saul. There's so many names in this Spanish team that can make the difference. And I just think on the day, even though they've got some good players, Portugal, I see Spain on this occasion being the much better side, coming out with a win. And I'm actually going to go quite a big one. I'm going to go here with Portugal 1, Spain 3 on the day. A monumental win for Spain. I think they'll top the group, and then it's up to Portugal to bounce back. Can they do that? We are going to find out. This World Cup promises to be a good one, and I really hope that you do join me right throughout the World Cup for more videos. And if you do have any suggestions on certain World Cup videos that you would like to see, please also let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, leave your thoughts down below. If your country is in the World Cup, please do let me know about it. What are your thoughts on your own country, on other countries? Who are your favourites for the trophy? And please leave your predictions for these 4 games down in the comments below. I will see you soon with more videos. It's getting closer now. It's the World Cup.